An abandoned German shepherd, starving, injured, and desperately seeking shelter, fights to survive in the midst of a devastating storm. What happens when this broken dog stumbles upon the home of a man who has lost everything? No one could have predicted what would unfold next. This isn't just another rescue story. It's a journey, one that will show how two shattered souls can heal each other in ways no one thought possible. Get ready for a story that will bring tears to your eyes and remind you, sometimes the most profound connections come when we least expect them and need them most. The Colorado winter howled outside Michael Foster's remote mountain cabin. Temperatures plummeted as the worst blizzard in decades buried the landscape beneath 3 feet of snow. Michael, a 38-year-old former search and rescue paramedic, had retreated to this isolated property 6 months ago after a tragic mountain rescue went horribly wrong. A career-ending leg injury and unrelenting survivor's guilt had driven him into solitude. That night, as the wind screamed through the pines, Michael sat before the fireplace, massaging his aching leg and nursing both a cup of coffee and the memories that haunted him. His days of saving lives were behind him, replaced by endless hours of silence and regret. At precisely 1:42 a.m., a sound at his back door cut through the darkness, a weak scratching, barely audible over the storm. Michael froze, listening. Living 20 miles from his nearest neighbor, visitors were non-existent, especially during a blizzard. The scratching came again, followed by a plaintive whine. Curiosity overcame caution. Grabbing his crutch, Michael limped to the door and cracked it open. There, collapsed in a snowdrift on his porch, lay a German shepherd. The dog's once powerful body was now skeletal, its coat matted and crusted with ice. A frayed rope, still knotted around its neck, told the story of a cruel abandonment. "My God," Michael whispered. His paramedic instincts kicked in instantly. The dog was hypothermic, starving, and near death. Its amber eyes, pools of fading consciousness, met Michael's, conveying one final desperate plea. Without hesitation, Michael scooped the dog into his arms, wincing as his injured leg protested. The shepherd weighed shockingly little and offered no resistance. Inside, Michael wrapped him in blankets and placed him beside the fire. The dog's breathing was shallow, his heartbeat weak and irregular. For the first time in months, Michael felt that old urgency return. The race against death, the desperate bid to save a life hanging by a thread. "Stay with me," he urged, gently rubbing warmth back into the dog's limbs. "I've got you now. Stay with me." Outside, snowdrifts mounted and the wind howled like mourners. Inside, Michael fought through the night for the life of a dog he had never met, unaware that this unexpected visitor would become the key to his own salvation. Dawn broke with merciful clarity. The storm had finally spent itself. Michael hadn't slept, maintaining his vigil beside the German shepherd who had somehow survived the night. The dog's condition was still precarious, severely dehydrated, malnourished, with frostbitten paws and what looked like an infected wound on his shoulder. "You need a vet," Michael murmured, checking the dog's weak pulse, "but we're snowed in for at least 2 more days." He'd already removed the frayed rope from the shepherd's neck, revealing raw, irritated skin beneath. The dog had no collar, no tags, nothing to indicate where he'd come from or who had abandoned him in such brutal conditions. As Michael gently cleaned the neck wound, the dog's eyes flickered open, watching him with wary confusion. "Easy," Michael soothed. "I'm trying to help." To his surprise, the shepherd didn't growl or snap, despite obvious pain. Instead, he watched Michael's every move with a quiet intelligence that felt almost human. When Michael offered a shallow bowl of water, the shepherd lapped at it weakly, then rested his head on Michael's hand in a gesture of exhausted trust. That simple contact, the first touch Michael had shared with another living being in months, broke something open in him. Tears he had refused to shed after the accident finally spilled. "I guess we're both pretty broken," he whispered, meeting the dog's steady gaze. "But we're still here." Throughout the day, Michael coaxed small amounts of broth into the shepherd, cleaned his wounds, and fashioned makeshift booties for his frostbitten paws. The dog tolerated each painful intervention, seeming to understand it was all necessary. By evening, Michael had created a comfortable bed near the fire. But the shepherd grew distressed whenever Michael tried to walk away. Eventually, Michael gave in and settled on the floor beside him, stretching out his damaged leg. "Just until you fall asleep," he promised. As darkness reclaimed the mountains, Michael found himself speaking, telling the shepherd about the avalanche that had claimed 2 lives and left him permanently injured. About the nightmares, the surgeries, the medals shoved in a drawer because they felt like mockeries of failure. "I couldn't save them," he confessed. "I was supposed to be the best, and I couldn't save them." The shepherd shifted closer, pressing his thin body against Michael's side, offering warmth to the man who had saved him. In that simple gesture was a profound truth. Sometimes being saved is just as important as saving others. For the first time in 6 months, Michael slept, without nightmares. Excitement buzzed in the air. This would be their first overnight trek, a test of both Michael's healing leg and their training progress. "Nothing too ambitious," he assured Scout, ruffling the shepherd's ears. "Just a night under the stars. See how we do." They hiked 2 miles to a small, glassy lake. Michael's pace was steady, if not swift, his reliance on the walking stick much diminished since winter. Scout moved with the natural grace of his breed, frequently circling back to check on Michael's progress, always attentive to his handler's needs. At the lakeside campsite, as Michael prepared their simple dinner, he reflected on the transformation of the past 4 months. The paralyzing grief that had driven him into isolation had receded, replaced by purpose. His leg still ached, and probably always would, but it no longer defined him. The nightmares came less frequently, and when they did, Scout's presence anchored him to safety. "You know what the shocking thing is?" Michael said, watching the sunset paint the mountains in gold and crimson. "Everyone thought I saved you that night, but it was the other way around, wasn't it?" Scout's intelligent eyes met his. A silent understanding passed between them. The abandoned had become the rescuer. The broken had become the healer. Later, as stars emerged above their tent, Michael's phone unexpectedly chimed, a rare signal in these remote mountains. A text message appeared from Dr. Wilson. "Perfect timing. County Search and Rescue is looking for canine therapy team volunteers for survivor support. Training program starts next month. Thought of you two immediately. Interested?" Michael looked down at Scout, curled beside him in the tent, and felt a certainty he hadn't experienced since before the avalanche. "What do you think, partner? Ready for a new mission?" Scout's tail thumped decisively against the tent floor. All the answer Michael needed. What had begun with a starving dog scratching at a stranger's door during a blizzard had become something neither could have found alone. A second chance, a new purpose, and the profound healing that comes from being exactly what someone else needs, exactly when they need it. Dissolved to summer to Colorado mountains. Wildflowers blanketed the hills as Michael and Scout completed their final session in the therapy dog training program. The change in both was remarkable. Scout was now the picture of canine health and confidence. Michael stood straighter, his limp diminished through months of purposeful rehabilitation. "You two are naturals," said Olivia Chen, their training coordinator, as Scout performed flawlessly in a simulation with a distressed victim, especially considering where you both started. Therapy work had revealed Scout's extraordinary sensitivity to human emotion. He could identify signs of distress before they became outwardly visible, offering comfort with uncanny precision. Paired with Michael's medical background and personal experience with trauma, they became uniquely effective in crisis situations. Their first official assignment came sooner than expected. A family of hikers had gone missing overnight on nearby Thunder Mountain. Though not part of the search team, Michael and Scout were asked to provide support at base camp for the anxious relatives. As Michael parked at the Trailhead Command Center, memories of his own failed mountain rescue surged unexpectedly. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, breath quickening. Scout placed a paw gently on his arm, their developed signal for Michael's anxiety spikes. "I'm okay," Michael whispered, taking deliberate breaths, just remembering. Scout's steady gaze communicated what words couldn't. The past doesn't define today. We're here now. Throughout that long day as searchers combed the terrain, Michael and Scout worked with the waiting family, parents frantic over their 2 teenage children who'd wandered off trail. Scout instinctively moved between them, offering comfort where it was most needed, while Michael provided reassurance and information. Near sunset, radios crackled with news. The teens were found safe, though cold and shaken. Just before the update, Scout's demeanor shifted. He moved toward the trail entrance, body alert but calm. "What is it, buddy?" Michael asked. Moments later, the search team emerged, teens in tow. Scout had sensed them before anyone else. More remarkable still, he gently approached the more distressed of the two, a girl of about 16, and settled beside her. She knelt, arms around him, sobbing softly into his fur. "How did he know?" the girl's mother asked later, watching her daughter sleep, with Scout still beside her. Michael offered a quiet smile. "He understands what it means to be lost and to be found." That night, driving home under a star-filled sky, Michael realized something profound. He might never fully recover from the trauma of that failed rescue, but those wounds had shaped him into someone capable of doing this work. His brokenness wasn't a failure. It was the path back home. A week later, Michael's cabin. As Scout settled into his orthopedic dog bed, an upgrade from his old fireside spot, Michael checked his email. A message from Dr. Wilson. "Thought you'd want to know. A puppy mill raid in Wyoming uncovered several German shepherds. One confiscated record shows a male shepherd matching Scout's age and description. Sold, then returned for being too gentle for guard training. The mill owner claimed he escaped about 5 months ago. Could explain a lot." Michael looked at Scout. Peaceful, strong, whole, and felt a mix of protective fury and overwhelming gratitude. "That cruelty, it led you to me," he whispered. "Too gentle, huh?" He thought of the lives Scout had touched with that very gentleness. Their loss, our gain. Sometimes, Michael finally understood, our greatest wounds lead us directly to our greatest purpose. 1 year later, Michael stood on the porch where a starving shepherd had collapsed a year before. Now Scout demonstrated search patterns for a group of new handler trainees. The cabin had transformed into a Second Chance K-9 training center, specializing in therapy and support dogs for crisis situations. "The bond between handler and dog is everything," Michael explained, "built on trust, consistency, and mutual respect. These animals aren't just tools, they're partners." As if on cue, Scout completed the exercise and returned to Michael's side with effortless precision. His once dull coat now gleamed in the autumn sunlight. After the session, they walked to their favorite overlook, a rocky outcropping bathed in fall colors. 1 year, Michael said softly, hand resting on Scout's head. Hard to believe. His once isolated world had grown. Regional emergency work, weekend training, a network of responders, and a wall of letters and photos from survivors Scout had comforted. The German shepherd had a gift, sensing those most in need and offering dignity without being overwhelmed. "You know what Dr. Wilson called us?" Michael asked, watching eagles soar on thermals above the valley. "She said we're wounded healers, that being broken helps us understand how to help others piece themselves back together." Scout's amber eyes held that quiet wisdom, the bond that had saved them both. As darkness settled over the mountains, they walked home together. Michael with only the slightest limp. Scout matching his pace perfectly. The lights of the cabin glowed warmly ahead, no longer a place of isolation, but a beacon of new beginnings. Inside, Michael paused by a framed photo, Scout on his first day, wounded wary, beside a recent image in his therapy vest. Strong, proud. Beneath the photos, a simple inscription read, "Sometimes the most shattered souls become the strongest healers." That night, as a storm began to build, eerily like the blizzard that had brought them together, Michael felt no fear. This time, the wind carried something else, not despair, but the promise that sometimes what looks like the end is only the beginning. Fade to black. If this story touched your heart, remember, there are real dogs like Scout waiting for a second chance. Share this, adopt, heal, love. Because sometimes one act of compassion can change everything.